Hey folks, Andrew Bopros here. Well, we'll do a video on our edge rusher, Kyle Canard. I think there's a lot to discuss about him. I think he's going to be a fantastic addition for the Chargers specifically. And I'm going to answer the question, would we have drafted Jack Sawyer if he were available 2 picks before when he went to the Steelers? So let's get into it, guys. Plenty to talk about. Andrew Bopros, let's go. Okay, folks, as always, like and subscribe if you do enjoy the content. I'm Andrew Bopros. Yeah, well, Chef Ortiz has been cooking, and I'll just have to say this, man. I honestly believe that we had one of the best drafts. Now, again, you and I both know I am highly biased to what we have been doing in this really this offseason in general, right? I think our free agency was amazing. We had a serviceable team, but we just got better in the draft. And I think they picked the best overall players. And I think the top 4 players they picked, wide receiver, edge, running back, really was those are the 4 positions that I wanted to make sure the Chargers were going to get. Now, just depending on what order they went with, is really the big difference, right? But again, these guys are just absolutely great. And Justin Herbert finally has a team around him. I think he will be protected great. There's a lot of great things we can talk about specifically with him. But let's talk about the man of the hour, Kyle Canard, right? Have a general discussion about him. And then we're going to go over some stats, right? So, again, Chargers selected South Carolina edge rusher Kyle Canard, 4th round. By the way, a lot of people projected him to be much higher. I think people thought he'd probably be, maybe a 3rd round, maybe, late 2nd, right? Blessed beyond measures, right? It's a dream come true. This is what Kyle Canard said. It's something that I've been thinking about and taking in for a long time. It's surreal. Again, Pro Football Focus had him at 81 overall prospect, right? And so to slip to 125 was a bit shocking. So it's one of those situations where, you can sit back all day and say, well, okay, should he gone sooner? Look, guys, he's got a fantastic resume. And I'm going to talk about his stats here in a second as well, too. So Kyle Canard, so PFF wrote, Canard shows a good understanding for how to win as a pass rusher in varying situations in both odd and even fronts. He's lean and long, which I think is part of the problem with him. I think a lot of people are like, well, I wish he was a little bit bigger. I always find that argument a little strange just because at the end of the day, you can get bigger, right? You can all get more muscle, right? I mean, Ben Herbert's going to, beefing him up, right? I can think another 10, 15 pounds. You can gain muscle pretty easily. Which is a plus for him and his arm length, but a negative when holding up versus the run, meaning pass blocking. So I think that's part of the reason why he slipped to some degree. His run setting the edge is a little harder for him because he can't set his base. And you're going up against a 330, 340 tackle, right? Well, maybe not 340, but 330 tackle. That's a big dude, right? And you're 100 pounds less than him. So it makes it hard for him to, hold his position. That's partially why I think he dropped. His handwork and footwork show a great baseline, built successful pass rusher. League is a day 2 selection. So again, has all the tangibles. He's the right guy, but maybe needs to put on a little more weight, have the ability to, hold his position a little bit better at setting the edge. 23-year-old. He's 23 years old. Now, again, he's going to be joining a edge rushing room of Khalil Mack, Tuli Pelotu, and Bud Dupree. Now, Bud Dupree, we know this is his last year. Khalil Mack, this is obviously his last year. Probably won't come back after this year, I wouldn't imagine. But who knows? We'll see. And Canard specifically talked about Khalil Mack. Khalil's one of the best to ever do it. I can't wait to be under his tutelage, be his teammate, and be dependable for him, whatever else I have to do. Now, I kind of view Kyle Canard a little bit like Tuli Pelotu. Tuli, where I think Tuli's a little bit better just right out of the gate, is that he's a better edge rusher as far as not edge rusher. He's better at setting the edge. That's what I meant. So he does a great job of stopping the run, right? I do think Kyle Canard is a little bit weak in that, but he's great at getting sacks. That's what we want. So again, nobody's perfect, right? There's some give and takes, but with him specifically, they'll probably just run him out there, at least as a rookie, more on speed rushing type of plays, right? Where, all right, it's 3rd and long. All right, let's get our speed package out there and just, rush the quarterback. Just to be alongside him with the grace, and he continues, Kennard saying, just to be alongside one of the greatest pass rushers, it's an opportunity that I cannot take lightly. And it's great, right? He's 6'4", 254 pounds. Again, played at Georgia Tech before transferring to South Carolina. Look, he's a fantastic edge rusher. If you look at his highlight film, like, damn, this guy's amazing. He's also second team All-American, first team All-ACC or SEC selection after tallying 11.5 sacks, 15.5 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. But he does struggle with setting the edge. That's, again, his big knock, right? So, again, when you start thinking about a guy who's going to be, a first-round pick, second-round pick, first-round pick, you got to make sure that guy can start day one, okay? Second-round pick, pretty sure that guy can start day one. Third-round pick, pretty sure that guy can start day one. Fourth-round pick, we like him, but we probably don't need him to start day one. And that's really what you have with Canard. I think he's great. I think he's great. So this is one thing that he says here too. I feel like I bring a good mix of both making plays in the backfield and rushing the passer. I feel like a lot of guys offer great pass rushing ability, and a lot of guys offer great run stopping ability. So it's interesting because he thinks he's a mix of both. Now, again, the critics would argue that he is not. But again, I personally don't see that. If you look at his tape specifically, I mean, this is just my opinion. Again, heavily biased, take it for what you will. But he says, I feel like I'm a complete defensive end. I bring it all to the table, right? Which, okay, great. I look, I'll I don't want to disagree with him in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I think he's absolutely fantastic, extremely talented. But, I think bottom line, critics got to be critics, right? It is what it is. But let's look at some of his stats and go from there. Again, 6'4", 544 pounds. Position ranked 22nd, which I think is kind of interesting. And again, that's all defensive linemen, right? So, and the defensive line is a lot, right? I mean, again, the defensive line, when we got Jamari Caldwell is just a big dude. He's a nose, right? He is a nose. He is going to smash the guy in front of him and disrupt the pocket, right? Block destruction. Kyle Canard's going to be, so Jamari Caldwell will be the sizzle. Kyle Canard will be the steak, right? He's the guy that's going to get the guy on the ground, right? And that's the whole point. You want to get this guy to get the rusher or the quarterback on the ground as soon as possible, right? But again, his weight, again, was his big knock, right? 254, a very low weight size, right? And look, give him some meatloaf. I don't know, something. You can gain some weight. No big deal. Come on now. Edge rusher. And, again, we all know he's good. Now, again, his grades were 3 stars. And everyone kind of sits back and says a few things. Let's talk about his stats first. And then we'll kind of review what he did at Georgia Tech and also South Carolina. Now, again, he's played a long time, since 2000. So, again, 3 sacks, 2 sacks, 2 sacks, 6 sacks. And this is probably the biggest knock against him. He had an amazing season, okay? And you might say to yourself, well, can he do it again? He hasn't been consistent, yada, yada. But look, in the NFL or even in college, when you have a season like this, you go to the pros. Because you can't probably duplicate that season, most likely, especially as an edge rusher, right? So, but again, the interesting question here is, again, he's had 28 total sacks or tackles, 20 solo, which I thought was interesting. It seems a little lower. I mean, especially when you look at him at Georgia Tech, the year prior, he had 32, right? So that's quite a bit less, but he had only six. So there's some inconsistency. And this is where you might start saying, well, he didn't set the edge the best way here, did that, yada, yada. Again, this is where some of the, criticism comes into play. And again, why he slipped to the 4th round. I mean, you see a guy like that, you would assume he'd be all up, a little bit higher than that. So now let's just look at his scouting reports and I'll wrap up the video. Again, natural twitch off the snap, refined pass rusher tools. Again, good cross chop move, nasty rip move, which Joey Bosa loved to do. And Khalil Mack does some things like that. Demonstrates impressive spatial awareness as a pass rusher. High motor player. Again, he shows that in spades. He is really good. Good football IQ, excellent timing for his hands, shows natural instincts as a pass rusher. So again, look, those are all good things, right? You're not gonna say anything negative about him in that scenario, Rob, but he does have a lighter frame. Again, you're going up against a guy that's 300 plus. And you got to move that guy. He's 50 pounds heavier than you. How do you get around him, right? And that's a big part of it, right? Needs to develop a more diverse pass rush plan. Again, that's where, you can't be a one-trick pony, right? That's one thing I did always appreciate about Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa had a lot of different moves, a lot of different ways of getting to the quarterback, bull rush, spin moves, all the above. Will occasionally lose containment, responsibilities. Again, that was the big part of it. The setting the edge is part of the problem, right? Hey, you got to lock down the C gap. Going to be tough because he's a smaller frame guy. Despite good length, still developing a technique to stack and shed consistently. Can get caught playing too high, particularly when anchoring against the run. Look, that is very, very true. And again, everything I've read about him, everything I've seen about him has said pretty much the same thing. But I think he has a natural ability. Again, 4th round pick, you don't need him to start day one, but you want him to be there eventually, maybe by the end of the season, so on and so forth, and contribute. Now, so to answer the question, whether I think we would have picked Jack Sawyer over Kyle Canard. Now, selfishly, I would like to say the answer is yes, because I wanted a Sawyer Charger jersey, but I think the answer is probably no. And I'll tell you why. I do think that really the Chargers were set to get him. I think they really liked what they saw him, and they feel like he will fit very well in Jesse Minter's system. I see this guy being the Lamborghini, right? He gets after the quarterback. He has a lot of speed. So I think they're going to use him a little bit differently than I think they're maybe even going to use some of these other guys that we've used in the past, right? Again, Thule is very good at setting the edge. So you're probably going to see Thule and Mack out there, but then you'll definitely see Kyle Canard also out there a lot more on 3rd and longs, right? The speed package. You might see him line up a little differently, but I do believe that he would be picked over Jack Sawyer, which breaks my heart. I really, especially if you go back to the press conference with what Harbaugh and Ortiz said, they were very happy to get him, and they were even shocked he was even there to begin with, right? So again, I truly believe that he's the right guy for the system. He will do a great job. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. I'm really curious to think. Do you think the Chargers would have selected Jack Sawyer if he were available, or do you think they would have stuck with Kyle Canard? Right. Again, I do believe that it's an interesting conversation. So leave a comment down below. All right. As always, Andrew Bopro. See you guys in the next one.
Hey, what's up? Cameron Dick here watching Bolt Bros podcast.